I lost the mounting bracket for my Squirrel Baffle. So what I did is I just used an old golf ball and a hose clamp, and it fixed it, and it works great. So let me show you how I did it. If you're wondering why I don't have a bracket, it's because I had this stored. When I pulled it out of storage, the bracket was missing. And while I was looking for it, though, I ran across this golf ball, and immediately I had an inspiration. So now before we go any further, let's go ahead and assemble our cone. Okay. Now take your golf ball, put it there. If it does like this, this is going to work perfectly for you. If it falls through the hole, you're sunk. It'll do the same thing on the post. It'll just fall off. So now let's look at the ball on the post, and you can tell that there is a hole drilled all the way through it, okay? And then you can see the slit on the side that spreads to go around the post. Now you have to do that if you have a shepherd's hook, because if you'll notice the top and the bottom of the hook, these are welded on, so there's no way that you can just slip this thing on from the top. Now, if you have a simple straight post, you'll be able just to drop the ball over the top and let it slide down without having to cut a slit. So the first thing we need to do is measure our post. And I've got a square post, so I'm going to measure across the corners with my micrometer. Now, if you don't have one, okay, you can just use some measuring tape and eyeball it. I'm getting about 5/8 of an inch here. You just want to make sure that your hole is slightly bigger than the post so you have some up and down freedom of movement. So now we can go ahead and cut our hole and our slit. And if this looks unsafe, believe me, it is. That's why we're going to make this jig for safety's sake. This is an 8-inch piece of 2x4. I'm going to cut it so that I end up with 2.5-inch wide pieces. It's just easier to measure and lay out when everything is equal. Now I'm going to find and mark center across the length and the width of the board. I'm using a 1-inch spade bit here, and I'm going to drill just halfway through the board, or about 3/4 of an inch deep. Now we'll take our golf ball, put it on one side, match it up with the other side, and you can see how this is going to hold the ball as we drill. Now I'm going to take a couple of clamps and secure the ends. Now you notice we have a little rocking problem here, and that's because the diameter of the golf ball is just a little bit wider than our 2x2s. So when we clamp this up to the bench, we're going to install a couple of shims underneath to even it up. So now I'm going to use 3 additional clamps, and we're going to secure this tightly against the bench. Now I'm going to mark center of the golf ball with my Marks-A-Lot, and next we'll be ready to drill. So I'm using a 5/8-inch brad point bit. Now I'm going to show you how to cut the slot using either a hand saw or an electric scroll saw. So for the hand saw, we want to move the hole in the ball from the vertical position to the horizontal position. I'm going to eyeball my cutting line. Now I'm just using a regular wood miter saw. You could use a coping saw, a hacksaw, or whatever works. Now, if you prefer, you can use a saber saw or jigsaw. And to do that, we're going to put a hole on the other end of the board because this actually needs to hang off the table a little bit. Now, instead of the center hole, you can actually use this to drill out your golf ball, if you're careful. Now we're going to install a 3/4 inch hose clamp on the post. You can get these at any auto parts store or hardware store. Using a 1/4 inch nut driver, I'm going to unscrew it all the way so that I can spread it apart and put it around the post. And to be effective at keeping squirrels at bay, it needs to be at least 5 feet above the ground. Now we simply screw it back together and tighten it. Now we come to the hardest part of the project, spreading that golf ball open enough to get it around the post. This was so difficult that I decided to heat the ball up by boiling it on the stove. When the water came to a boil, I simply dropped the golf ball in it. Then we turned the flame off and let it sit for about 5 minutes. I used the tongs for safety, but when I did pull it out of the water, I put my screwdriver in it, messed with it a little bit. And then I was able to touch it, actually, and it was warm, but not so hot I couldn't hold it. And it does seem to spread easier. I reheated the water, and then I took it outside, pot and all. And again, I found that it wasn't too hot to handle. Again, I used the big screwdriver, and eventually I was able to get it on the post. If you come up with a better way to do this, be sure to send me a comment and clue me in. Of course, I finally got it, and now it's installed on the post. So now we can try out our cone. I'm going to put it on here and snap it in place. And look at here. Look how much tilt is possible with a golf ball. No squirrel in the world can stand on that. So we have another successful project. So now there's no way that this guy can get back on my feeder. And we can just sit back now and enjoy watching our little feathered friends. Okay? So folks, that's going to wrap it up for today. God bless you and your family, and thanks for watching.